2022 baseball season is over, and the MLB free agency period has begun. There have already been a few early signings, but we are still waiting on nearly every player to see where they will end up. I wanted to take a closer look, though, at the Detroit Tigers. With their change in the head of baseball operations going to Scott Harris, I, along with others, expect some big changes in Detroit. So, I'm going to go over 5 players that the Detroit Tigers should sign this offseason. The first guy I want to mention is Willson Contreras. This one is fairly obvious, as there are already rumors that the Tigers are looking at the Chicago Cubs All-Star. With Scott Harris having a previous relationship with Contreras from their time together in Chicago, on top of the news that the Tigers are looking for a catcher, there should be no need to explain the possibility of this signing happening. Now, for what this guy would bring is a consistent hitter and a strong power bat. Contreras hits the ball hard everywhere, and even in Comerica's vast outfield, he would be due for 20-plus homer seasons. Going from recent years of our primary catchers being of the hitting quality of Tucker Barnhart, Jared Saltalamacchia, and Alex Avila, the bump in offensive production would be immediately noticed. On top of that, he is at least an average defensive catcher and would pair well with backup Eric Haas behind the plate. Pay this man and lock him up for 4+ years, Tigers. The next guy I expect the Tigers to sign would be Adam Frazier. Last year, the Tigers infield had Spencer Torkelson, Javier Baez, Jonathan Scope, Jeimer Candelario, and Harold Castro as our 5 primary infielders. This lineup, on top of being underwhelming, left our infield comprised of right-handed hitters only. The Tigers as well are in desperate need of a solid left-handed infield bat. Not to mention someone who could hit over the Mendoza line while playing second base. Looking at you, Scope. Frazier has been an above-average defender for the past 6 years, but what value he does provide is in his bat. Although Frazier had his struggles at the plate with Seattle last year, I know he can bounce back with the Tigers this year. Frazier does not go up to the plate trying to hit homers. Rather, he relies on soft contact and getting bloop hits. So going to Detroit and their spacious outfield definitely isn't going to take home runs away from him and will play into his hitting style by giving him more room to get on base. This may help him have a bounce back season in 2023 with the Tigers as their new second baseman. Also, coming off a down hitting year and a down year in general, Frazier would have a cheap price tag to pair with his potential value. I see this move as a great fit for both the Tigers and Frazier and would be one of the biggest steals in the free agency market. The last position player I believe the Tigers will sign is Mitch Haniger. The Tigers need 2 things in the outfield: someone who can hit well from a corner outfield spot to go along with Austin Meadows, and a right-handed batter. And Haniger would be a great answer for both. The need for more hitting can't be expressed enough with the Tigers' paltry 3.44 runs per game in 2022, which was dead last in the majors. Haniger only played part of the 2022 season and hit well, but when healthy, this guy's out here to crush baseballs. He may lose some of his power numbers coming to Detroit, but maybe not as much as you may think. He loves to pull his homers to deep left and left center, which is one area in Comerica Park that is favorable to power hitters. Therefore, I see Haniger providing 25+ homers a season with ease. Additionally, the Tigers currently have 4 outfielders, all of which are lefties. So I would be shocked if they do not look to sign a solid right-handed hitter like Mitch to somewhat balance that outfield. The only issue is the guy needs to stay healthy, which is a definite downside as 2 of his 4 full seasons in the majors were heavily shortened due to injury. With that said, if this guy can stay healthy, Haniger will provide some nice pop in the bat and someone the Tigers can put in the cleanup spot hitting behind Baez or Meadows that they desperately missed last season. Also, if the Tigers instead go after a lower price tag for another righty outfielder, Tommy Pham or AJ Pollock would be nice options. One starter I would love to see the Tigers make a move to sign would be Chris Bassitt. With the Tigers having Eduardo Rodriguez and Tariq Skubal as our 2 best rotational arms, both being lefties, I really don't see the need to target another high-end lefty to add to the rotation. With the emphasis on desired pitching improvements stated by Scott Harris, I would be stunned to not see the Tigers go for a strong right-handed starting pitcher to bolster this rotation. Now looking at Chris Bassitt, He is one of the better starting pitchers that are going to be available on the market and will cost a bit. But with Cabrera's contract of $32 million per year ending next year, I'd say the Tigers have the budget to go get a guy like Bassitt for $20 to $25 million a year to make this rotation arguably the best in the AL Central. Yes, even better than Cleveland's. Over the last 3 years, Bassitt has a 3.13 ERA, a 1.11 WHIP, and has been healthy over these years, which would be a refreshing addition to a Tigers rotation that battled injuries the prior season. I will not be the least bit surprised if Harris aims for a big signing like this in the 5-year, $110 to $120 million range. Though, if the Tigers don't want to spend as much money on a right-handed starter, I could see them going after someone solid but not quite as reliable, such as Michael Wacha or Mike Clevenger. The final guy the Tigers need to try to go after is Chris Martin. One of the few bright spots for the 2022 Detroit Tigers was in fact their relief pitching, which was ranked 8th in the majors and 6th in the American League in ERA at a 3.45. This is something the Tigers really are not used to. When they had their playoff teams in the mid-2000s to early 2010s, their weakness always lied in the bullpen. With the losses of Michael Fulmer via trade, Andrew Chafin via opting out, and Willie Peralta, the Tigers need to replenish their bullpen so they can be a top 10 bullpen once again in 2023. Now, I hope they sign multiple good relievers, but why should the Tigers want Chris Martin specifically? Don't let the age fool you. At 36, Martin is a guy with a relatively fresh arm. He was bounced around in the minors and played on some overseas teams in his 20s and early 30s, but he did not accumulate a large amount of innings pitched. Martin finally got his first real go in the majors in 2018. Since then, Chris has been a very overlooked reliever that may come with a cheaper price tag than other names on the market. Since his first full season in 2018, Martin has put up a very respectable 3.44 ERA and 1.06 WHIP. Martin hopefully won't be the only arm the Tigers add to the bullpen, but he is a guy that they can sign for cheap, will come in, post a 3 ERA, and leave the fans happy this year. So, those are 5 players I want to see the Detroit Tigers take a shot at signing. Let me know if you agree, or if you think the Tigers should aim elsewhere, and why. If you enjoyed my breakdown, please leave a like, and I appreciate you if you watched all the way to the end. Now, let's see how this free agency period plays out, and let's go Tigers.